Every person who has ever lost love made the same mistake. In the beginning, they tried to keep it. You cannot hold water by clenching your fist. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it runs through your fingers. I watched a man build walls around his wife to protect their marriage, and those same walls became her prison. I watched a mother smother her child with devotion until the child could not breathe. They called it love. I call it fear, wearing love's face. If you want to never lose your love, you must first understand you never possessed it. And I know that sounds strange to you, because you have been taught your entire life that love is about having, about holding, about keeping. You speak of relationships as if they are property. My boyfriend, my girlfriend, my spouse, as if another human soul can belong to you, the way a house belongs to you or a car belongs to you. But a human being cannot be owned. A heart cannot be purchased. And the moment you try to possess what was only ever meant to be freely given, you begin the slow work of destroying it. I need you to hear this, because everything else I am about to tell you depends on this one truth. You have been lied to about love. Not with words necessarily, but with examples. You watched the people around you perform what they called love, and you learned from them. You learned that love is jealousy. You learned that love is control. You learned that love is keeping score and demanding proof and checking phones and requiring constant reassurance. You learned that love is anxiety, dressed up as devotion, and then you went out into the world and you repeated those same patterns, wondering why every relationship felt like a slow suffocation, wondering why everyone you loved eventually pulled away. Here is what no one has told you. Love is not fragile. Love does not need to be protected from the world. Love is the strongest force in existence. It can withstand betrayal and hardship and distance and time, but there is one thing love cannot survive. It cannot survive you trying to control it. It cannot survive you turning it into a cage. It cannot survive you replacing trust with fear. And that is what most people do. They meet someone who makes them feel alive, someone who opens their heart, someone who shows them what connection feels like. And then immediately, they become terrified of losing it, and that terror becomes the thing that kills it. I want to take you on a journey today. I want to show you where love actually dies. I want to show you what you have been doing wrong your entire life. Not because you are bad, not because you are broken, but because you were never taught the truth. And once you see it, once you really understand it, everything changes. The way you love changes. The way you show up in relationships changes, and for the first time in your life, you will stop losing what matters most. But I have to warn you, some of what I am about to say will make you uncomfortable. It will challenge everything you thought you knew. It will ask you to look at yourself honestly, maybe for the first time. And that is not easy. It is much easier to blame the other person. It is much easier to say they changed, they left, they stopped loving you. But the truth is often more complicated than that. The truth is that most people lose love not because it was taken from them, but because they killed it slowly, day by day, with their fear and their neediness, and their unwillingness to do the hard work that real love requires. So if you are here looking for a magic formula, if you are here looking for manipulation tactics, if you are here hoping I will give you some technique to make someone stay who wants to leave, you can leave now. That is not what this is. This is about transformation. This is about you becoming the kind of person who does not lose love because you have learned how to love the right way. Not the way the world taught you, but the way it was always meant to be. Let me tell you about the two builders. There were two men who came to me, and both said they wanted love that would last forever. The first man said, "Tell me what to do, and I will do it." He wanted steps. He wanted a checklist. He wanted to treat love like a project he could manage and control. The second man said, "Show me who to become, and I will become it." He understood something the first man did not. He understood that love is not about doing. It is about being. So I told them both the same parable. I said, "Imagine you are building a house for the one you love. You have two options for the foundation. The first foundation you can build is made of need. Every brick is a fear that they will leave. Every wall is a rule to keep them close. Every window is a way to watch them. Every door has a lock. This house feels safe at first. It feels like protection. You think you are keeping love safe inside these walls, but what you are actually doing is suffocating it. Because inside this house, love cannot breathe. The person you love becomes a prisoner, and you become the guard. And guards do not sleep well. They are always watching, always afraid, always exhausted. They check the doors at night. They count the windows. They lie awake wondering if today will be the day their prisoner escapes. And here is what happens in that house. The person you love starts to change, not because they stopped loving you, but because human beings were not designed to live in cages. They start to pull away. They stop sharing their thoughts because every thought is analyzed and questioned. They stop sharing their feelings because every feeling is met with suspicion or neediness. They stop dreaming out loud because every dream is seen as a threat. And slowly, quietly, they begin to die inside, and you notice it. You feel them slipping away. And what do? You add more locks. You build the walls higher. You watch more carefully. You demand more proof. And you wonder why they seem so distant, why they seem so sad, why they do not look at you the way they used to. But you are the reason. The house you built to keep love safe is the very thing that killed it. The second foundation is built of freedom. Every brick is trust. Every wall is respect. Every window opens wide. Every door has no lock. This house feels terrifying at first. It feels like risk. You think, what if they leave? What if they choose someone else? What if I am not enough? And those fears are real. But here is what you must understand. The person you love is going to choose. Every single day, they are going to make a choice. They are going to choose to stay or choose to leave. And you, trying to control that choice, does not change it. All it does is make the choice for them, because no one wants to live in a prison. No one wants to be controlled. No one wants to be with someone who loves them out of fear instead of freedom. But inside this house, the house built on freedom, something beautiful happens. Love can grow. The person you love becomes a garden, and you become the gardener. And gardeners do not control the flower. They do not force the petals open. They do not command the roots to grow. They create the conditions. They water the soil. They give sunlight. They remove the weeds. But they trust the process. They trust that if they do their part, the garden will flourish. And here is the miracle. When you give someone freedom, when you love them without trying to possess them, when you trust them instead of controlling them, they do not run away. They run toward you, because you have become the only person in their life who sees them as a human being instead of an object to be managed. The first man heard this parable and he left angry. He wanted a formula. He wanted control disguised as love. He wanted me to tell him how to manipulate another person into staying. But I will not do that. I will never do that. Because that is not love. That is ownership. That is dominance. That is everything love is not. The second man heard this parable and he wept, because he realized he had been building the first house his entire life. He realized that every person he ever loved had escaped, not because they did not love him, but because he had turned love into a cage. He saw, maybe for the first time, that he was the problem, and that realization broke him. But it also freed him, because once you see the truth, you can change. Once you know what you have been doing wrong, you can start doing it right. So, let me ask you, which house have you been building? Have you been the guard or the gardener? Have you been trying to control or trying to create? Have you been building walls or opening doors? And be honest with yourself, because this is not about judgment. This is about awareness. You cannot change what you cannot see. I want to tell you another story. I once met a woman who had married 5 times. 5 times. Each time, she swore it would be different. Each time, she believed this man would finally fill the emptiness inside her. Each time, she thought she had found the one who would complete her, who would make her whole, who would give her the love she had been searching for her entire life. And each time, the love collapsed, not because the men were wrong, not because they were bad or cruel or unloving, but because she was asking them to do something only I could do. She was asking them to give her worth, to give her identity, to give her permission to exist, to tell her she mattered, to prove to her that she was enough. She came to me at a well in the heat of the day. She came at that time because she was avoiding the other women, the women who whispered about her, the women who judged her, the women who looked at her with pity and disgust. She had been married 5 times, and the man she was with now was not her husband, and she carried that shame like a weight on her shoulders. She was exhausted. She was broken. She was convinced that she was unlovable, that something was fundamentally wrong with her, that she was cursed to lose every person she ever cared about. And I did not condemn her. I did not lecture her. I did not add to her shame. I simply told her the truth. I said, "You have been drinking from broken cisterns. You keep going to human love to quench a thirst that only divine love can satisfy. And because you are empty, you are desperate. And because you are desperate, you are blind. You choose poorly. You ignore the red flags. You overlook the incompatibilities. You rush into relationships because you are so starved for connection that anyone who shows you attention feels like the answer. And then you cling tightly. You smother. You need constant reassurance. You require proof of love because you do not believe you are worthy of it. And the men feel that. They feel the weight of your emptiness. They feel your desperation, and it suffocates them. And so they leave, not because you are not beautiful, not because you are not valuable, not because you are not worthy of love, but because you are asking them to carry a burden they were never meant to carry. You are asking them to fill a hole that only I can fill. She looked at me with tears in her eyes, and she asked the question everyone asks. She said, "How do I stop losing? How do I make love last? How do I find someone who will not leave?" And I told her something that changed her life. I said, "Stop drinking from the wrong well. Stop asking a man to be your God. Stop trying to earn what has already been freely given. You are loved, right now, in this moment, not because you are perfect, not because you have it all together, not because you have found the right person or done the right things, but because you are mine. And once you know that, once you drink from that well, you will never thirst again, and then, and only then, can you love another person without devouring them." She left that day changed. Not because I gave her a technique, not because I told her what to say or how to act, but because I gave her a new foundation. I showed her that she was already whole, that she was already loved, that she did not need another person to complete her, because she was never incomplete to begin with. And once she had that, once she really believed it, her entire approach to love transformed. She stopped looking for someone to save her. She stopped clinging out of desperation. She stopped needing constant proof, because she already had what she was looking for. And that freedom, that security, that wholeness made her a completely different person. The kind of person who could actually build lasting love because she was no longer coming from a place of lack. And that is the secret most people never learn. You cannot build lasting love from a foundation of emptiness. You cannot love well when you are broken and bleeding and desperate, because that kind of love is not really love. It is need disguised as love. It is hunger disguised as devotion. It is two drowning people trying to save each other and pulling each other under in the process. Real love, the kind that lasts, the kind that heals, the kind that transforms, comes from overflow. It comes from wholeness. It comes from two people who are already complete, already secure, already at peace, choosing to walk together, not because they need each other, but because they choose each other. And that distinction changes everything. So whose love are you trying to earn? And what if I told you that you already have it? What if I told you that you are already loved with a love so vast, so complete, so unconditional, that nothing you do can increase it, and nothing you do can diminish it? What if I told you that the very thing you have been searching for in every relationship, in every person, in every desperate attempt to feel wanted, is already yours? Would that change how you love? Would that change who you choose? Would that change what you demand from another person? Because here is the truth. Most people do not lose love because they are unlovable. They lose love because they are trying to extract from another person what only I can give. And no human being can carry that weight. No relationship can survive that pressure. You are asking your partner to be your therapist, your parent, your savior, your source of worth, your reason for living. And then you are shocked when they fail, when they disappoint you, when they cannot fix you or complete you or make you feel whole. But they were never supposed to do that. That was never their job. Let me tell you what love is, because I think you have forgotten, or maybe you never really knew. Love is not a feeling. I know that is not what you want to hear. You want me to tell you that love is butterflies and racing hearts and obsessive thoughts. And yes, those things can accompany love. They can be part of the experience, but they are not love itself. They are the weather, not the ground. They are the waves, not the ocean. They come and go. They rise and fall. And if you build your relationship on feelings alone, your relationship will be as unstable as your emotions. Love is a commitment to action. It is the decision to see another person clearly, to know their flaws and their failures and their darkness, and to choose their good anyway. Love is washing feet. Do you understand what I am saying? I, the Son of God, got down on my knees and washed the feet of my disciples. I served them. I humbled myself. I put their needs above my comfort. That is love. It is not glamorous. It is not romantic in the way the world defines romance. But it is real. It is solid. It is the thing that holds when feelings fade. Love is speaking truth when a lie would be easier. It is saying the hard thing, the uncomfortable thing, the thing that might cause conflict in the moment, but brings healing in the long run. Love is staying when your flesh wants to run. It is waking up on the day when you do not feel like being kind and choosing kindness anyway. It is forgiving when you have every right to hold a grudge. It is releasing resentment even when the other person does not deserve it. It is the laying down of your life. Not literally dying, though sometimes it might require that, but dying to your preferences, dying to your pride, dying to your need to be right, dying to your selfishness, so that another person can rise. If love were only a feeling, it would be as unreliable as the wind. Feelings come and go, passion fades, attraction dims. The excitement of a new relationship always settles into something quieter. And when that happens, most people panic. They think the love is dying. They think something is wrong. They start looking for the feeling again, either in the same person or in someone new. And that is why so many relationships fail. Not because love died, but because people are chasing a feeling that was never meant to last forever in the same intensity. But commitment remains. Commitment is the choice you make when the feeling is gone. Commitment is showing up on the hard days. Commitment is doing the work even when you do not feel like it. And that is what most people are missing. They are chasing a feeling. And when the feeling fades, they believe the love has died. But love never lived in the feeling. It lived in the choice. It lived in the action. It lived in the daily decision to see the other person, to serve the other person, to choose the other person, even when it costs you something. But here is what happens when you only love out of feeling. You wake up one day, and you do not feel it anymore. The butterflies are gone. The passion has faded. The person in front of you is no longer a mystery. You know their routines. You know their flaws. You know their bad habits. And the excitement is gone. And you think, this must not be the one. I must have made a mistake. There must be someone else out there who will make me feel that way again. And so, you leave. You go searching. You find someone new. And the cycle starts all over again. The butterflies return. The passion ignites. You feel alive again. And you think, this is it. This is real love. But it is not. It is infatuation. It is novelty. It is the chemical rush of a new connection. And it will fade again. And you will leave again. And you will keep repeating this pattern until you die alone, wondering why love never worked for you. But the people who understand what love really is, they do not panic when the feeling fades. They do not see it as a sign that something is wrong. They see it as an invitation to go deeper, to build something real, to move from infatuation to commitment, from excitement to intimacy, from the surface to the depths. And that is where real love lives. Not in the feeling, but in the choice, in the staying, in the building. Now let me tell you something that will make you uncomfortable. You cannot keep what you try to control. Every person who has ever suffocated love did so out of fear. They were afraid of loss, so they gripped tighter. They monitored, they questioned, they demanded proof. They turned love into an interrogation. They checked phones and demanded passwords and tracked locations and asked, "Where are you going and who are you with? And when will you be back? And why did not you text me? And who is that person? And why are you smiling at your phone?" And they thought they were protecting the relationship. They thought they were keeping love safe. But what they were actually doing was strangling it. And here is the paradox. The tighter you hold, the more you guarantee the loss. Because love requires freedom. Not the freedom to betray, not the freedom to abandon, not the freedom to be reckless or selfish or cruel, but the freedom to choose. Every single day, the person you love must be free to choose you again. Not because they are trapped, not because they are obligated, not because they have no other options, but because they want to. Because when they look at their life and they consider all the people they could be with and all the things they could be doing, they still choose you. That is love. That is real love, and it only happens in freedom. When you remove that freedom, when you turn love into a cage, you remove the very thing that makes love beautiful. You remove the gift, because love is a gift. It is not a debt. It is not an obligation. It is not something you can demand or deserve or earn. It is something that is freely given, and when you try to force it, when you try to control it, you turn it into something else. You turn it into duty. You turn it into resentment. You turn it into a prison sentence, and what you are left with is not love. It is hostage-taking. I have told you, do not be anxious about anything. Do not worry about tomorrow. And yet in your relationships you are consumed with anxiety. You are terrified they will leave. So you try to control their every move. You try to monitor their thoughts. You try to manage their friendships. You try to dictate how they spend their time. And in doing so, you become unbearable. You become exhausting. You become the very thing that drives them away. Because no one wants to live under surveillance. No one wants to constantly explain themselves. No one wants to feel like they are on trial every time they have a conversation or check their phone or spend time with a friend. Trust is the oxygen of love. Without it, love suffocates. And here is what you need to understand. If you cannot trust the person you are with, you should not be with them. It is that simple. Either they are trustworthy, and your lack of trust is your issue, your baggage, your wound from the past that you are projecting onto them, or they are not trustworthy, and you are trying to control them into being someone they are not. Either way, the relationship is already broken, because trust is not optional. It is foundational. It is the ground everything else is built on. And if you do not have it, you do not have love. You have something else, but it is not love. So how do you trust when you have been hurt before? How do you trust when every instinct screams to protect yourself? How do you trust when the last person you trusted broke your heart? This is the question everyone asks. And the answer is not easy, but it is simple. You have to heal. You have to do the work. You have to face your wounds. You have to stop running from your pain and start walking through it. Because if you do not, you will bring that pain into every relationship. You will punish the new person for what the old person did. You will see betrayal where there is none. You will interpret every innocent action as a threat. And you will destroy something beautiful because you could not let go of something broken. Healing is not optional if you want to love well. You have to take responsibility for your own wholeness. You have to stop expecting another person to fix what someone else broke. You have to stop demanding that they pay for sins they did not commit. And you have to choose, consciously and deliberately, to trust again. Not blindly, not naively, but with wisdom, with discernment, with eyes wide open. You choose someone who has proven themselves trustworthy, someone whose actions match their words, someone who shows up consistently, someone who honors their commitments. And then you trust them, fully, completely, without reservation, because anything less is not love. It is self-protection disguised as love. Now I want to tell you something that will probably offend you. Love does not complete you. You have been told a lie. You have been told that you are incomplete, and the right person will complete you. that somewhere out there is your other half, and once you find them, you will finally be whole. This is poison. This is one of the most destructive lies ever told about love, because if you believe you are incomplete, you will approach love as a beggar. You will cling, you will demand, you will take and take and take, trying to fill a void that another person was never meant to fill. And the person you love will feel it. They will feel the weight of your emptiness. They will feel your desperation. They will feel your need sucking the life out of them. And they will run, not because they do not care, not because they do not love you, but because they cannot carry you, because you are asking them to do something impossible. You are asking them to be your source, to be your reason for living, to be the thing that makes you whole. And no human being can do that. No human being was designed to do that. Love is not two broken halves making a whole. That is a beautiful idea. It sounds romantic, but it is a lie. Because two broken halves do not make a whole. They make a mess. They make a codependent disaster. They make two people drowning together instead of swimming. Love is two whole people choosing to walk together. Love is overflow, not deficit. You must come to love full, not empty. You must come with your own peace, your own purpose, your own identity intact. And then, when you give, you are not giving out of need. You are giving out of abundance. This is why I have said, seek first the kingdom, and all these things will be added to you. Because the kingdom is wholeness. It is knowing who you are. It is knowing whose you are. It is being rooted and grounded in an identity that cannot be shaken by another person's opinion or presence or absence. And when you have that, when you are rooted in that, you do not need another person. You simply choose them. And that kind of love is unshakable, because it is not based on need. It is based on choice. It is not based on desperation. It is based on desire, and there is a world of difference between the two. When you need someone, you are afraid of losing them. When you choose someone, you are free to love them. When you need someone, you become controlling and clingy. When you choose someone, you become generous and giving. When you need someone, their absence destroys you. When you choose someone, their presence enriches you. Do you see the difference? It is everything. So if love is not about need, what is it about? What is the point if not to fill the void? The point is union. The point is partnership. The point is two whole people creating something together that neither could create alone. The point is reflecting the image of God, who exists in eternal community, who is love in his very nature. The point is learning to lay down your life for another. The point is practicing selflessness in a world that screams at you to be selfish. The point is becoming more like me, because I am the ultimate picture of love. I laid down my life. I gave everything, not because I needed you, but because I chose you. And when you love like that, when you love from wholeness instead of emptiness, when you love out of choice instead of need, everything changes. The pressure is gone, the desperation is gone, the fear is gone, and what you are left with is freedom, real freedom. The freedom to give without keeping score, the freedom to serve without expecting something in return, the freedom to love without demanding that love be returned in the exact same measure, and that freedom is the soil in which real love grows. But here is what most people will not tell you. The death of love happens in the small moments. No one wakes up one day and decides to destroy their relationship. It does not happen in a single catastrophic event. Yes, there are betrayals. Yes, there are affairs and lies and violations of trust. But even those are usually the symptom, not the cause. The cause is the 1,000 small moments that came before, the moments you did not think mattered, the moments you overlooked, the moments you thought were too small to count. It happens when you stop asking questions, when you assume you know everything about the person you love, so you stop being curious. You stop asking how was your day and actually listening to the answer. You stop asking what are you thinking about. You stop asking what do you need from me. You stop asking how can I love you better. And without those questions, you drift. You stop knowing each other. You become strangers sharing a bed. It happens when you stop listening, when they are speaking and you are already planning your response, when you are already thinking about something else. when you are on your phone or watching TV or mentally going through your to-do list while they are trying to share their heart with you. And they notice. They might not say anything, but they notice, and slowly, they stop sharing. Because what is the point of speaking when no one is listening? It happens when you stop seeing them, when they become furniture in your life, useful, familiar, but invisible. When you walk past them 100 times a day and never really look at them, never notice the sadness in their eyes, or the tension in their shoulders, or the way they light up when they talk about something they are passionate about. When you stop seeing them as a person, a whole complex human being with dreams and fears and needs, and start seeing them as a role, as the person who does the dishes or makes the money or takes care of the kids, and they feel that. They feel invisible, and invisibility is its own kind of death. It happens when you stop saying thank you, when you stop noticing the things they do, the sacrifices they make, the ways they show up for you every single day. When you start expecting instead of appreciating, when you start demanding instead of requesting, when you take for granted the very things you used to treasure, and resentment builds. On both sides. You resent them for not doing enough, even though they are doing everything. And they resent you for not noticing, even though they keep trying. It happens when you stop touching. Not sexually, though that matters too. But tenderly. When you stop holding their hand for no reason. When you stop kissing them goodbye in the morning. When you stop hugging them when they walk through the door, when you stop finding excuses to be close, because touch is a language. It says you matter to me. It says, I am here. It says you are not alone. And when that language disappears, distance grows, not physical distance, emotional distance, the kind that is so much harder to cross. Love does not die in the explosion. It dies in the erosion. It dies slowly, quietly, imperceptibly, and by the time you notice, it is often too late. By the time you realize what you have lost, the other person is already gone. Not physically, maybe, but emotionally. They have already grieved the relationship. They have already detached. They have already started building a life that does not include you in the center of it, and you wake up one day shocked, devastated, blindsided. But they are not shocked, because for them, the end happened a long time ago. So how do you stop the erosion? How do you keep love alive when life is exhausting and repetitive? How do you stay connected when you are both tired and stressed and overwhelmed? You pay attention. You stay present. You treat every day like it matters. Because it does. Every single interaction is either making a deposit or making a withdrawal. Every conversation is either building connection or building distance. Every moment is either bringing you closer or pushing you further apart. There is no neutral. There is no coasting. Love is either growing or dying, and the choice of which one is happening is made in the small moments, in the mundane, in the ordinary, in the everyday. This is why I told you that if you are faithful in the small things, you will be faithful in the large things, because the small things are the large things. The small moments are where love lives or dies. The question is not whether you will make grand gestures or have dramatic conversations or go on elaborate vacations. The question is, will you show up today? Will you be present in this moment? Will you choose love in this interaction? Even when it is inconvenient, even when you are tired, even when you do not feel like it. And this brings me to something you do not want to hear, but you need to hear it. Forgiveness is not optional. It is the foundation. You will hurt the people you love. This is not a question of if, but when. You will be selfish. You will be blind. You will say the wrong thing. You will fail to show up. You will choose yourself over them in a moment of weakness. You will snap at them when you are stressed. You will ignore them when you are distracted. You will take them for granted. You will make promises you do not keep. You will have good intentions and poor follow-through. You will hurt them, and they will hurt you. They will do the same things. They will fail you. They will disappoint you. They will let you down. This is the reality of human love. We are broken people, trying to love each other with broken hands. We are wounded people trying to heal each other with wounds of our own. We are selfish people trying to be selfless. And we fail. We fail often. We fail spectacularly. We fail in ways that hurt deeply. And so, If love is to survive, forgiveness must be woven into its very fabric, not as a one-time event, but as a daily practice, as a way of life. I have told you, forgive 70 times 7, not because the offense does not matter, not because you should be a doormat, not because you should accept abuse or betrayal or chronic patterns of harm, but because unforgiveness is a poison you drink hoping the other person dies. It destroys you, it consumes you, it builds walls between you and the person you love. It turns your heart into stone. Most relationships do not end because of the betrayal. They end because of the refusal to forgive. They end because someone decided the offense was more important than the relationship. They end because pride won, because someone had to be right, because someone had to keep the scorecard, because someone could not let it go. But here is what I know. Love keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not hold grudges. Love releases. Love lets go, not because it is weak, but because it knows that freedom is the only way forward, because holding on to resentment is like carrying a backpack full of stones. It weighs you down. It exhausts you. It makes it impossible to move forward, and the only person suffering is you. Now, I know what you are thinking. But what about boundaries? What if forgiveness becomes enabling? What if I forgive and they just keep hurting me? These are valid questions, and here is the answer. Forgiveness and boundaries are not opposites. They work together. Forgiveness is what you do for yourself. It is releasing the debt. It is choosing not to punish them forever for what they did. It is letting go of the bitterness and the rage and the need for revenge. But boundaries are what you do for the relationship. They are the lines you draw that say, this behavior is not acceptable. This pattern must change. I forgive you, but I will not tolerate this anymore. Forgiveness does not mean you stay in a relationship that is actively harming you. Forgiveness does not mean you ignore red flags or excuse abuse or pretend that everything is fine when it is not. Forgiveness means you release the poison from your own heart so that you can see clearly and make wise decisions, so that you can respond from a place of peace instead of reacting from a place of pain, so that you can choose what is best for you and for the relationship without being controlled by bitterness. And here is what most people miss. Forgiveness is not just for the other person. It is for you. It is how you stay free. It is how you keep your heart soft. It is how you prevent one person's sin from destroying your capacity to love. Because if you hold on to unforgiveness, if you let bitterness take root, it does not just affect that one relationship. It affects all of them. It makes you cynical. It makes you suspicious. It makes you hard. And you carry that hardness into your next relationship, and your next, and your next. And you wonder why you keep attracting the same kind of people. But it is not the people. It is you. It is the wall you built around your heart that keeps the wrong people out, but also keeps the right people at a distance. Now here is the hardest truth, the one most people refuse to hear. If you want love to live, you must die. Not physically, but the death of your ego, the death of your need to be right, the death of your need to win, the death of your comfort, the death of your selfishness. I have said, unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it produces much fruit. This is true of love. If you cling to yourself, to your preferences, to your pride, to your way of doing things, you will remain alone. You might be in a relationship, you might even be married, but you will be alone because you will be more committed to yourself than to the other person. More committed to being right than to being connected. More committed to your comfort than to their flourishing. And that is not love. That is self-preservation. But if you are willing to lay yourself down, love will flourish. And I do not mean you become a doormat. I do not mean you lose yourself. I do not mean you erase your identity or your needs or your boundaries. I mean you choose the good of the other over your own comfort. You serve when you would rather be served. You listen when you would rather speak. You stay when you would rather leave. You apologize when you would rather justify. You change when you would rather demand that they change. You give when you would rather take. And here is the mystery. In dying, you find life. In giving, you receive. In laying yourself down, you are lifted up. This is the upside-down nature of the kingdom. The way up is down. The way to gain is to lose. The way to live is to die. And most people never learn this. Most people spend their entire lives trying to protect themselves, trying to get their needs met, trying to make sure they are not taken advantage of. And they miss the whole point. They miss the beauty. They miss the transformation that happens when you stop living for yourself and start living for another. Most people are not willing to do this. Most people want love without sacrifice. They want intimacy without vulnerability. They want commitment without cost. They want the benefits without the work. And so they never experience the fullness of what love can be. They never experience the depth, the richness, the beauty. They settle for something shallow and transactional, something that feels more like a business arrangement than a sacred union. And then they wonder why they feel so empty. But when you understand this, when you really get it, everything changes. You stop keeping score. You stop asking, what am I getting out of this? You stop calculating whether you are giving more than you are receiving. Because you understand that love is not a transaction. It is a sacrifice. And sacrifice is only meaningful when it costs you something. When it is easy, it is not really sacrifice. When it is convenient, it is not really love. Real love shows up when it is hard, when you are tired, when you would rather do anything else, when it would be easier to walk away. That is when love proves itself. That is when you discover what you are really made of. But how much is too much? When does sacrifice become self-destruction? This is the question everyone asks. And the answer is wisdom. The answer is discernment. The answer is knowing the difference between loving someone and enabling them, between supporting someone and carrying them, between being patient and being a fool. Because there is a difference, and you have to know it. Sacrifice is laying down your life for someone who is also laying down their life for you. It is mutual. It is reciprocal. It is two people, both choosing to serve, both choosing to give, both choosing to die to themselves for the good of the other. But self-destruction is laying down your life for someone who is taking and never giving back, who is using your love as a weapon against you, who is demanding that you shrink so they can grow, who is asking you to betray yourself so they can be comfortable. That is not love. That is abuse. And you are not called to stay in that. You are not called to endure that. You are called to love wisely, not foolishly. So here is what you do. Every single day, ask yourself this question. What can I do today to serve the person I love? Not grand gestures, not expensive gifts, not performative acts that are more about you looking good than about them feeling loved, but simple, intentional service. Make their coffee the way they like it. Ask about their day, and actually listen to the answer. Take a chore off their plate without being asked. Send a message in the middle of the day that says, I am thinking of you. Notice when they are stressed and ask how you can help. Notice when they are sad and sit with them in the sadness. Notice when they are happy and celebrate with them. These small acts are the bricks of love. They are the proof that love is alive. They are the evidence that you see them, that you know them, that you are paying attention. And over time, they build something unshakable. Because love is not built in the big moments. It is built in the small ones. It is built in the everyday. It is built in the mundane and the ordinary and the repetitive. And the people who understand this, the people who show up in the small moments, those are the people whose love lasts. Here is another practice. Once a week, sit down with the person you love. No phones, no distractions, no television in the background. Just the two of you. And ask 3 questions. How did I love you well this week? How did I fail you this week? What do you need from me in the week ahead? This practice keeps you calibrated. It keeps you from drifting. It keeps you from assuming. Because assumption is the enemy of intimacy. Assumption says, I know you. I know what you need. I know what you are thinking. And assumption is almost always wrong. Because people change. Needs change. Circumstances change. And if you are not asking, if you are not checking in, if you are not staying curious, you will miss it. You will keep showing up in the way you have always shown up, not realizing that what worked last year does not work anymore, not realizing that what they needed in one season is not what they need in this season. These three questions create a rhythm of honesty, of accountability, of connection. They force you to look at yourself, to take ownership, to admit when you have failed, and they force the other person to tell you the truth, to not just smile and say everything is fine when it is not, to give you real feedback so you can actually improve. And that is what love requires, not perfection, but willingness. Willingness to look, willingness to admit, willingness to change. Here is another practice. Every night before you sleep, write down 3 things you are grateful for about the person you love. Not generic things, specific things. I am grateful for the way they laughed at my joke today, even though it was terrible. I am grateful for the way they held my hand when I was anxious. I am grateful for the way they choose me every day, even when I am difficult. This practice rewires your brain. It trains you to see the good instead of the flaws. It trains you to notice instead of overlook, because what you focus on grows. If you focus on what is wrong, you will find more and more things that are wrong. But if you focus on what is right, if you focus on what is good, if you focus on what is beautiful, you will find more of that too. And over time, this practice transforms how you see them. It transforms how you love them, because you are no longer taking them for granted. You are no longer blind to the ways they show up. You are no longer numb to the gift of their presence. You are awake. You are attentive. You are grateful. And gratitude is the soil in which love grows. Here is one more. Once a month, sit in silence and release. Release your need to control. Release your expectations. Release your resentment. Release your fear. Speak this out loud or write it down. I release my grip. I trust the love between us. I trust that what is meant to stay will stay. I trust that I am enough. I trust that they are free, and I am free. And love does not require chains. This is not passivity. This is power. This is the practice of trust. Because trust is not something you have once and keep forever. It is something you practice every day. It is a muscle you have to exercise. And this practice, this ritual of letting go, helps you do that. It reminds you that you are not in control, that you were never in control, that trying to control is what destroys love, and that freedom, real freedom, is what allows love to breathe. And here is the last practice. At least once a quarter, ask yourself the hard questions. Am I loving this person? Or am I using them? Am I building them up? Or am I tearing them down? Am I present? Or am I just physically here? Am I giving out of fullness? Or am I taking out of emptiness? Am I becoming more like love or more like fear? Do not lie to yourself. Do not justify. Do not rationalize. Just look at the truth. And if you see something broken, fix it. If you see something dying, revive it. If you see something missing, build it. Because love requires vigilance. It requires honesty. It requires the willingness to look in the mirror and see yourself clearly. And most people are not willing to do that. Most people would rather blame the other person, would rather point out their flaws, would rather make excuses for their own behavior. But real love requires real accountability. And if you are not willing to take responsibility for your part, you will never build anything lasting. So here is what I have shown you today. Love is not a feeling. It is a commitment. It is not possession. It is freedom. It is not need. It is overflow. It does not die in explosions. It dies in small moments of neglect. It does not survive on passion. It survives on forgiveness. And it does not thrive without sacrifice. It requires your daily death to self. You came here afraid of losing love, but now you know. Love cannot be lost when it is built on truth. It can only be abandoned, and the question is not whether you will face difficulty, whether you will be tempted to quit, whether you will be hurt. The question is, will you choose love anyway? Will you choose it on the hard days? Will you choose it when you do not feel like it? Will you choose it when it costs you something? Because that is what love is. It is the choice. Again and again and again. You are not broken. You have just been building with the wrong materials. You have been afraid of the wrong things. You have been protecting love from the wrong enemies. The enemy is not outside. It is inside. It is your fear, your pride, your need to control. But now you know, and now you are free to love the right way. Not the way the world taught you, but the way it was always meant to be. Here is your mantra. Speak it over your life. Speak it over your relationships. Speak it every morning when you wake up. Speak it every night before you sleep. I do not love out of fear. I love out of freedom. I do not love to possess. I love to serve. I do not love to complete myself. I love because I am already whole. I choose love every day, even when it is hard, because love is not a feeling, it is who I am. If this resonated with you, if something shifted inside you today, leave a comment below. Tell me what you are going to do differently. Tell me what truth hit you the hardest. Tell me what you are afraid of. Tell me what you are hopeful about, because I want to hear from you. I want to know that this mattered. I want to know that you are not just listening, but that you are changing, that you are growing, that you are becoming. And if you want more of this, more truth, more clarity, more revelation, subscribe, because I am not done speaking. There is so much more I have to show you, so much more you need to hear, so much more that will set you free. This is just the beginning. This is just the first step. But if you take it, if you really take it, everything changes. You are loved, right now, in this moment. Not because you are perfect, not because you have it all together, not because you have figured out how to love well, but because you are mine. And that love, that unshakable, unconditional, eternal love, is the foundation of everything. It is the well you drink from. It is the ground you stand on. It is the truth that sets you free. Now go and love well. Love with your whole heart. Love without fear. Love without control. Love without keeping score. Love the way I have